All right, so earlier this week, I was talking to one of my best friends, and I was telling her about this podcast that I've been saying I would make, and I've been talking about it forever. And she was like, "You've been talking about this for too long. Why don't you just make it?" And I realized my excuse for the past year has been that I don't have enough time. And if you are someone who works a full-time job or runs their own company, you have probably said this too about your own podcast that you've been thinking about forever. So in this video, we're going to talk about the real culprit behind not having enough time and how to actually solve it. And if you're new here, welcome. My name's Huete. I am a podcast producer and the creator of the Emerging Voices Podcasting Accelerator. If you are someone who has had a brilliant idea, but you just can't seem to get it off the ground, then you'll want to download our 10-step guide to launching your podcast. The Emerging Voices Accelerator is a space where I help podcasters bring their ideas to life. So if you want to know when applications for that open up, you'll be the first to know once you download the 10-step guide and you're enrolled in our mailing list. You'll be the first to know when applications open up. And if you're wondering why you should trust me, here are some of the shows that I've worked on. Some of the ones you might recognize are Where Should We Begin with Esther Perel and This Is Dating, which was listed as one of Time Magazine's best podcasts of 2022. Now, before I get into the rest of this video, I have to say, I really do legitimately think that some people actually just should not be making time for their podcast right now because they have lots of responsibilities that need to get done, and you also are a human being and you should be resting, okay? So this is not me advocating for more productivity or you just hustling a little bit more on the side in order to earn your freedom. That's not what this is about. This video is really for people who either have a 9-to-5 or run their own business and they know they have time, but they can't seem to carve out the space to really work on their podcast. I think many of you fit into this description. I certainly fit into this description. And here is the theory that we'll be working with, which I found to be true with basically everything else that I do in my life. When I am saying that I don't have enough time for something, it's usually code for I have big emotions associated with working on this thing, and I'm not willing to face them, or I'm not ready to face them, okay? And if you are like, what are you talking about? Here's the thing. Our concept of time and our emotions are so closely linked, okay? So how we feel about time is very closely linked to what emotions we're having. If you don't believe me, think about the last time you felt really grounded and open. You weren't thinking about time or about running out of time. You were just fully present. And there's an expansion of time that happens when you're fully present. On the other hand, think about the last time you felt really anxious or fearful. For me, it was just the other day where I felt like I don't have enough time to do all of the stuff that I have to do. And it makes you hyper aware of the amount of time you have or don't have. It just makes you feel like time is running out. So in the steps that we're walking through, we're going to be talking about both how to block out time and then how to address the emotions when they come up and then how to repeat this over and over again. All right, so step 1 is to get regulated. This means we want to get you feeling really good before you sit down to open up your calendar or look at your notes app or think about where you can find the time to work on your podcast. The reason for this is because when you make a plan from a really regulated state, it's something that actually will feel good when you sit down to work on it, versus if you are coming from a place of shame and blocking out chunks of time that really come from you feeling guilty that you haven't already done this. You're gonna perpetuate that feeling when you sit down to work on your podcast. So my first step for you is to go do something that makes you feel good, all right? So go get a workout in or go talk to a friend, whatever it is that brings you a little bit of joy, go do that, and then we move on to step 2. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna do this with you. Let's go get some sun, get a matcha, and then we'll come back and we'll work on step 2. regulated. I've had my matcha. I've talked to a friend. I feel really good. Now my next task is to look at my calendar. And this is not an imaginary calendar. It's my real calendar. The one with the meetings, the Netflix nights, the hangouts with the friends, the date nights, all of that should be on your real calendar. Considering all of that, where is it that you think you can find 2 to 3 60-minute chunks of time where you can work on your podcast? Now, we're going to run a little experiment in the next step, so it's really important that these are realistic times where you think you can sit down and work on your podcast. Make sense? Okay, I'll see you back at home. Step 3 is running an experiment. You are going to sit down to work on your podcast for the first of your 60-minute sessions. And what exactly are you going to work on? Now, your podcast workflow, once you know who your audience is and once you know what your topic really is and what sets it apart, every podcast basically only has 5 things to complete to make a podcast episode come to life. The first is research and prep. The second is recording. Third, editing. Fourth, publishing. And fifth, promotion. Okay? So you are likely starting with step 1. So can you actually complete a research and prep task for your podcast? Maybe it's researching your guests. Maybe it's actually preparing the email that you're sending out. Whatever it is, you have 1 hour to complete that task. So this is where the experiment comes up. You want to test whether when you sit down to work on your task in your first 60-minute block, do you actually do it? And if you complete your task, outstanding. Just see if you can repeat that for the coming 1 or 2 sessions that you've set. And if you can, great. You can just rinse and repeat that week over week. But if you can't, I want you to just observe yourself. If you find yourself in this second bucket, then we know what the problem is. You don't actually have a time problem. You have an emotion that needs to be addressed, okay? And that brings us to step number 4. Step number 4 is to identify the emotion behind the time scarcity, okay? So if you know that you are a high achiever, which many of you are, and you have big emotions that come up when you sit down to create, 9 times out of 10, it is fear. It's the fear of what might happen if you succeed, what might happen if you fail, how will people judge you, what will it feel like to expose yourself to the public in such a big and meaningful way, and what if your ideas don't actually live up to the standard that you have in your head. All of this is stuff that I felt, and I know how debilitating it can be. I'm here to tell you that it's entirely solvable. The first step is to name it. Be honest with yourself, whether that's through journaling, talking to a therapist, talking to a friend, or just whatever it is that you currently use to resolve and work through your emotions, bring it to that space. If you're a person who has a spiritual practice, bring it to your practice and work through it. Because you know that ultimately that's the block between you and sitting down to work on your podcast. Once you're aware of it, you can start working with it instead of against it, which brings us to step number 5. Step 5 is to work in small, emotionally tolerable chunks. Okay, so we are not going to try and get over your fear of being seen all in one go. We are actually just going to choose one task that is easy enough for you to do within 1 hour. It's totally normal and fine to have a bit of fear around it, but it should feel so feasible, almost too easy, and have a specific beginning and end, okay? It might be something like researching who your first guest is going to be, or writing an outline for your very first solo episode. It should be very specific. Now, once you choose what that task is, you're going to go and do something that regulates you, something that grounds you. Go look at the sky, go get some sunshine on your face, go hug a loved one, do something that makes you feel safe, that makes you feel regulated. Once you have done that, your job is to sit down and complete the task. And it's just one task. This is what therapists call your window of tolerance, this zone where something feels challenging but not overwhelming. And once you've completed the task, your job is to pay attention to your body, pay attention to this moment. You didn't die. You did the thing and you are still here with us, and you have actually moved an idea forward. Each time you complete one of these tasks, you show your body that you are safe, that you can do this, and your capacity to actually move forward without thinking of time as the issue expands. So your job is to still follow that rhythm of 2 to 3 60-minute blocks where you're going to work on your podcast, but the task that you assign for yourself has to be so simple and so specific and so doable that at the end of each of these sessions, you are showing your body that you are okay. And before you know it, you will have created the show that you're dreaming of without forcing yourself. If you actually stick to your commitment to showing up for these 60-minute blocks week over week and doing something that feels tolerable to you, you'll be in a completely different place a year from now. And in Emerging Voices, we think about this in a very specific way. When you first sit down to work on your podcast, you're focused on what your show's really about, what makes it different from every other show out there, and who it's for. Once you've identified those things, your podcast workflow, which we talked about earlier, is something that you essentially rinse and repeat. This is what you'll be doing for every single episode moving forward. So your job is to pick one of these 5 categories and actually work on it week over week. So it's not about doing everything at once. It's actually about moving your idea forward in a very sustainable way without stressing yourself out. In fact, I might even go as far as saying it brings more joy into your life because you're doing this in a way that you can actually feel good about and you can actually feel proud of. So if this helped you reframe how you think about time, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below. What do you think is the emotion sitting beneath your I don't have time story? And if you're ready to turn that awareness into action, download the 10-step guide to launching your podcast. And I will see you in the next video.